Let's dive into this wild story. That S-rank girl running away, that is Saki. So why on earth is the weak luggage kid staying behind to fight the boss? Seriously, just a week ago, this guy could not even hold a sword properly. Meet Yuki, the supposed loser of the squad. His entire role, lugging around bags, healing potions, and snacks. He was literally just the team's pack mule. The mage treated him like a waiter, and the leader saw him as pure dead weight. Saki was his only defender. They grew up together in an orphanage before a dungeon collapse totally wiped it off the map. Fast forward to a few days back. The squad marches into an S-rank dungeon and the floor just straight up swallows them whole. A nasty teleport trap. It drops them right inside the massive boss room. A creepy old butler rises from a pool of red liquid and folds the S-rank squad like fresh laundry. Then the real boss steps out, a vampire demon king. Every single monster takes a knee. The leader instantly realizes his entire team is completely doomed. Right then, our luggage boy pulls out an emergency teleport device. One push, and the whole squad gets to go safely home. But here is the catch. Anyone outside the circle stays behind. Yuki starts walking the opposite way while the mage screams. Saki breaks down crying. The leader scoops her up, finally understanding. Our boy just keeps walking fully, knowing he is sealing his own fate. The countdown hits absolute 0 and he tosses the teleporter right behind his back. Now watch closely. The team vanishes, leaving him totally alone with demons that just humiliated an S-rank squad. But instead of destroying him, the vampire is super impressed. A worthless, jobless kid sacrificing himself. Actually, that is perfect. Turns out this demon king desperately needs a literal unemployed human for a very specific gig. Plot twist: the monsters are not actually the bad guys. Humans march into dungeons every single week and farm them like giant ATMs. This demon king wants to crush other dungeons, absorb their mana, and protect his crew. But he needs a human partner to summon him into the outside world. The only requirement, absolute loyalty and literally 0 job affiliation. So, yeah, bro basically won by being unemployed. The demon promises that with this new power, Yuki can finally protect his friends while helping the dungeon. A total win-win situation. Bro officially became a demon king's partner just because his resume was completely empty. They shake on it. A glowing curse mark burns into his skin. Just like that, the guild's worst adventurer transforms into their most dangerous secret weapon. He wakes up topside. Saki tackles him, crying uncontrollably. The very next day, bro casually strolls into the guild like nothing even happened, asking to run a dungeon solo. The receptionist stares like he just confessed to a major crime. Still, she clears him for their easiest F-rank spot, the Silent Labyrinth, known for having super weak monsters. Basically the kind of place where rookies vanish without ever making the evening news. They tell him to press the red button if he ever needs help. Suddenly, the big vampire asks if this dungeon is abandoned. Shocked, Yuki asks if that is his special ability. Nope, the demon explains it is actually Yuki's own new power to communicate with monsters. It is what they call an always-on, automatic passive skill. Yuki explains that an abandoned dungeon simply means nobody is managing or clearing it out properly. Dungeons with good loot attract tons of greedy adventurers trying to get rich, keeping them in decent shape. Observing from afar, the vampire casually notes that the monsters here seem to be reproducing totally peacefully. He figures the whole place will eventually collapse under the sheer weight of way too many monsters. You and I both know something is wrong here. Our hero spots 0 monsters around, which is seriously weird even for a weak dungeon. Suddenly the ground shakes violently. 2 panicked adventurers come sprinting past, screaming that the dungeon boss just spawned in. Freaked out, Yuki screams, asking what this massive slime charging straight toward him even is. The Demon King realizes the few monsters here actually ate each other. Then our boy spots an emergency exit and immediately points it out. All 3 sprint away from the beast. But suddenly the girl gets snatched up by the slime and dragged straight back. Panicking, our hero begs the Demon King, asking if summoning him would actually fix this massive mess. The answer, a flat no. Seeing the girl fading fast, Yuki just blindly charges straight at the giant monster. He literally throws his own body into the acidic slime. Watching this, the vampire just loses it, laughing. This crazy kid will do literally anything to save a life. Holding the girl tight, Yuki finally summons the Demon King. The massive vampire materializes, declaring his master can use him freely. Badly injured, our boy coughs up some serious strawberry juice, his insides burning like crazy. The demon instantly lends his power. Yuki unleashes the attack, Chaotic Wolf Dawn, blasting it right at the slime and completely vaporizing it. Trust me, he quickly realizes that blast was not even a real attack. Alright, stick with me here. That whole fight was an absolute disaster. With the beast finally defeated, an adventurer spots our bruised kid and yells to evacuate him immediately. Yuki tries to play it tough and says he is fine, but totally blacks out and hits the dirt. Fast forward a few days. Our boy gets an updated card showing a fresh promotion to E rank, reminding him of the awesome duo who saved his life. They even filed his guild report and carried him to safety. Swirling a glass of wine, the vampire asks why he looks so gloomy when a rank-up calls for a huge celebration. But our hero feels guilty, saying his only move was summoning. The demon shakes his head, reminding him that was his absolute limit. In that critical moment, the kid refused to leave that girl behind and saved her without a second thought. Offering him a drink, the vampire praises that crazy inner strength. But always being just one step from death is a massive problem, so next time he needs to summon someone else entirely. That someone happens to be Elvina, an undead from the servant race. Sweating a bit, our young guy nervously introduces himself to his new summon. The girl teases that her young master is charming, but love at first sight is pushing it. Flashing a cold, beautiful stare, she jokes about having no heartbeat since she is undead. Totally shocked, the kid asks if this is normal. The vampire just shrugs. Elvina laughs it off as an undead joke, explaining her actual goal is simply being an affordable maid. She notes he desperately needs to level up to handle summoning her lord. Later on, the zombie maid flexes her insane strength, leaving our boy completely speechless and impressed. She straight up solos an E-rank dungeon called Nest of the Blazing Ones. Watching her spunky attitude actually reminds the hero of the orphanage kids, making him smile. Suddenly he realizes his levels are skyrocketing non-stop. Panicking a bit, he asks if he can somehow turn it down. The maid tilts her head in absolute confusion. Complaining about leveling up, she asks if that is some weird joke for living people. A bit later, our protagonist wonders if he can keep her summoned way longer than the Demon King. The zombie explains her boss requires a massive mana pool. But as a budget-friendly household maid, she runs perfectly fine on his current mana level. Smiling warmly, he calls her a massive help, which completely flusters her. You and I are learning exactly what Yuki is right now. It is not just about raw power, but pure mana efficiency. Arriving at the creepy boss room, our guy gets intimidated. But the maid just winds up and shatters the massive gate with one single devastating punch. Dusting off her hands, she jokes about always knocking before entering a room. The night boss instantly draws his weapon. Charging forward like a blur, the maid tells her enemy to become a sacrifice. Watching from the back, our hero notices the flames roaring on the knight's sword look completely different from normal fire. Panicking, he screams Elvina's name. But she dives right in, takes a nasty burn straight to the face, and is forced to jump back. Rubbing her face, the zombie curiously asks when he figured out it was holy fire. Yuki admits he just thought the flames looked way different than anything else they had fought in this dungeon. He mentions it resembled Saki's magic. Elvina immediately confirms that holy light is the absolute worst enemy for an undead. She playfully jokes that holy magic really gets her heart racing, but Yuki tells her to drop the undead comedy routine. Boom, the knight unleashes a massive skill called Sanctuary of the Ring of Fire, completely trapping them in burning flames. Watch closely because this dungeon boss is definitely not letting them run away so easily. Our guy thinks about tagging the vampire in, but she explains he can only keep one single summon active at a time. Taking a breath, the hero says they will handle it themselves. Elvina is completely amazed he wants to fight alongside her instead of hiding like a normal tamer. But he grins, calling it obvious since they are partners. Hearing that the maid drops the jokes and promises they will win this together, Yuki decides it is finally time to test out those insane level gains. He immediately opens his system menu, searching for the brand new skill he unlocked during the grind. It is a broken skill called the Evil Eye, letting him read any monster's hidden stats. Suddenly the boy senses a brutal attack coming. He grabs his maid and barely dodges the deadly slash. Catching his breath, Yuki explains his Evil Eye reveals exactly how lethal this boss really is. The zombie nods, calling it a classic tamer skill that exposes a target's true nature. But before she can finish, Yuki cuts her off, screaming that the boss is charging. Zero hesitation, the maid rockets forward and lands a brutally clean kick on its armor. Winking charmingly, she brags about being pure offensive power. But wait, they quickly realize that Epic Strike literally did 0 damage to the iron shell. Flashing his evil eye, our protagonist discovers the knight is actually a pure fire monster. He exposes the tiny fire monster piloting the armor. With the strategy locked, she warns him to stay focused. Trust me, you will want to see how this wild fight ends. Alright, let's jump right into the chaos. Yuki spots the enemy charging and screams at his maid to dodge to the right. He fires off commands like crazy, keeping his partner barely out of reach. Thanks to that, she actually lands a massive punch straight on the knight's heavy helmet. The massive beast swings back hard, but the zombie girl quickly leaps away. Elvina smirks, saying that is the first time he looked hurt. But Yuki quickly corrects her, the knight totally dodged the worst of it. Yuki tries shouting another command, but the boss charges right at him instead. At the very last second, his loyal maid tanks the brutal strike. Holding the young guy tight, she tells him to activate his skill. And hers, it is called Owner of the Entire Jungle. She reminds him that he can borrow the exact powers of his contracted monsters. This crazy skill maxes out his stats temporarily. He could finally smash the monster without it dodging, but there is a catch, he can only use it once. Talk about high stakes. Eyes locked on the boss, he declares they have to end this right now. Out of nowhere, the monster unleashes a massive sword combo. The zombie girl dodges lightning fast, but Yuki still ends up taking a direct, painful hit. Sprawled on the floor, he gasps out for her to ignore him and follow his lead. Thanks to his quick thinking, she slips right behind the towering knight. Now watch closely because this is wild. Yuki activates his skill and with one explosive kick, she launches the massive boss straight into the wall. Completely wiped out, the hero cheers their impossible victory. Elvina sighs, saying that power completely drained her and just walks away. Yuki begs his maid to wait since his legs are literally paralyzed, but she hilariously leaves him in the dust. A little while later, Yuki regroups with the vampire, complaining he barely survived the trip back. The guy just chuckles, glad the kid is not dead. Changing the topic, Yuki looks around and asks where Elvina went. The Demon King points right over there. Yuki steps closer and completely freezes the zombie girl as resting on a bed of flowers. The vampire calmly explains this is how they honor their dead, asking if human funerals are any different. Utterly confused, Yuki demands to know what is going on. The boss drops a harsh truth. Her undead race literally trades the destruction of their physical bodies for a massive power boost. Suddenly, the kid remembers those crazy system abilities he checked earlier. Dropping to his knees, reality hits him hard. His maid paid with her very life. Absolutely shattered, the hero screams that he never ever asked her to do that. He just wanted to win the fight. The vampire coldly reminds him that he also wanted to protect the dungeon from invading humans. Sounding annoyed, the man says she just did whatever it took to win, and managing that is his burden as the Demon King. But Yuki is not having it. He blames himself, saying he should have used his brain instead of blindly trusting Elvina's reckless strategy. You and I both feel this. Thinking of the orphans, he knows he should have fought much harder. Tears falling, he sobs that history repeated itself because he is pathetic. The vampire cuts in. That is exactly why he will train the kid to become strong enough to summon him. Wiping his eyes, Yuki insists there must be a way to revive Elvina since he is literally a monster tamer. The vampire shuts that down fast. He explains tamers exist purely to use monsters as tools, meaning once they die, they are simply gone forever. Yuki is absolutely crushed by the harsh truth. But suddenly a mysterious voice calls out, scolding the Demon King for being so mean. Recognizing her, the vampire sighs, saying they already settled this issue. But the newcomer smirks, pointing out that this poor kid was completely left out of their little meeting. Instantly, Yuki activates his evil eye to scan her stats. Her name shows up as Mei. She is a maid packing holy attributes and an actual resurrection skill. Yuki's jaw basically hits the floor. Flashing a super creepy smile, she asks if he wants to learn the resurrection method. Completely stunned, Yuki desperately asks if she can actually save his friend with that. Mei figures out the kid can read her system skills, so she skips the long introduction. But Yuki shakes his head. He can only see the name, and system skills always have hidden conditions. The vampire admits Yuki is the only one who can pull this off, ordering the girl to explain. Stepping up, she finally introduces herself as Mei, the head maid. She runs the entire dungeon staff and is basically the emergency backup for bringing people back from the dead. Humans are always invading to slaughter their monsters, so her whole purpose is to be the ultimate safety net when plans fall apart. But the catch, the skill drains an insane amount of mana, making it horribly inefficient to use. Then she gives him a quick example. If some random young guy died and needed reviving, she would burn through the exact same amount of mana it takes to build an entire floor of this dungeon. So bringing a powerhouse like Elvina back would cost way more. Using it means shrinking the dungeon's overall size. Yuki nervously asks if that makes them easier for humans to conquer, and she nods yes. Oh, and the second brutal condition, you cannot revive anyone if their mana pool hits absolute zero. Mei checks and says Elvina still has a tiny spark left, but it will vanish completely in exactly 10 days. So they have to steal mana from somewhere else. And trust me, watching him try to conquer a massive dungeon for her is going to be an epic ride. Completely shocked, Yuki realizes they can spam the resurrection skill endlessly if they just siphon mana from rival dungeons. Now stick with me here. The vampire agrees but admits the dungeons they cleared so far barely offer enough juice. Naturally, our guy asks just how much mana they actually need. The maid admits human rankings confuse her. But yeah, everyone completely lost their minds when she casually suggested they just wipe out some massive high-tier dungeon. Looking down, the Demon King explains they kept their trump card out of danger strictly to protect Elvina. Annoyed, our hero demands to go, but Liber calls it reckless warning that both he and the new monster would share Elvina's fate. The kid fires back. He still cannot level up, but this remains his absolute only option to save her. Plus, that was literally why he signed the demon contract anyway. The Demon King summons his butler for a training arc. Liber puts the kid under Vince's care for 7 straight days. As our guy follows the butler, the vampire quietly tells Mei to tail them. Why? Because the old man absolutely hates using human allies. He warns that the kid might literally get himself killed by the butler. Boom, teleported straight into the dungeon. The old man reveals this is Lord Liber's personal power, and he gifted each executive their own private floor. And guess what? This kid is the first human to ever step foot here. Our hero asks if he is getting a level-up carry. The old man coldly explains that human leveling means stealing mana from monsters and dungeons. Turns out greedy adventurers basically wreck the entire dungeon ecosystem by siphoning monster mana without permission. Since the kid signed Liber's contract, grinding levels inside this specific dungeon is totally off-limits. Confused, our guy asks how he'll train then. Suddenly, a sword gets tossed into his hands. Vince claims he has a mountain of things to teach, since the kid currently has absolutely zero foundation. Readying his stance, the butler brutally roasts him. No strength, zero knowledge, and absolutely no talent. With a downright demonic glare, the old man declares he must earn all three if he really wants to save Alvina. Watch closely here, things get wild. The old man unleashes a massive barrage of strikes. Our hero literally thinks he's about to die, but Vince denies it, adding he will just toss the kid away if he cannot survive this basic test. Honestly, him failing would be way better for Liber anyway. Relentlessly attacking the old man demands he survive for at least 3 straight hours. Somehow the kid blocks a strike. Activating his skill, he swears he'll bet his life to bring Alvina back. His magical eye reveals the old man rocks, the blood attribute wielding a terrifying technique called Beautiful Bloodflower Blade. Freaking out, Yuki realizes the level gap is so massive that his special eye cannot even track the incoming attacks. In full panic mode, Yuki desperately wants to run somewhere completely safe. But nope, the butler charges straight at him like a freight train. A savage slash grazes his shoulder. Somehow, against all odds, the kid magically dodges the crazy follow-up combo. But the butler scoffs, saying the kid's movements are full of wasted motion. Closing the gap instantly, Vince brags he can effortlessly crush any counterattack. Why? Because the kid's combat decisions are brutally slow, wasting precious seconds, overthinking every single move. The old monster swoops in for another deadly strike, but our hero barely slips away. Yuki attempts a desperate frontal assault, but the butler simply steps aside. He coldly states that rushing blindly changes absolutely nothing about the final result. Boom. He instantly counters with a heavy straight-on frontal sword slash. You saw that coming, right? But somehow, the kid actually blocks it. Vince admits his moves are finally improving. Our boy explains he memorized the blade's path, calculating the absolute most efficient way to deflect it. Eyes burning with determination, Yuki proves stats aren't everything. His magic eye literally lets him copy monster movements. The old man nods, understanding the trick, but coldly declares it is still nowhere near enough. Launching another strike, Vince explains their body structures differ, so their sword skills will always end up completely different. Sweating bullets, our hero realizes this absolute monster was holding back the entire time. The butler unleashes a terrifyingly heavy strike, bragging about his decades of combat experience. Panic sets in. Yuki's limbs are giving out and his danger alerts are screaming. Worse, he realizes that last earth-shattering blow used exactly 0 mana. It was nothing but pure, unadulterated sword mastery. The kid swings back wildly, but hits empty air. Stepping back, the butler readies his stance, announcing playtime is over. A horrifying blood-red aura starts leaking violently from his blade. Instantly, a massive wall of system danger alerts pops up. Our protagonist completely freaks out. On his knees, he desperately needs real data on the enemy's skills, not just vague warnings. That is exactly when the butler triggers his technique. Yuki tries predicting it, but fails, ending up totally wrecked on the floor. And that's where we leave it. Trust me, you're not ready for what's next. Alright, let's jump right back into the madness. Sitting in an armchair, the butler notes he's awake. He tells the kid to follow. Our guy is totally confused. He took that insane attack head-on, so why isn't he hurt at all? The butler explains that May healed him up, barely using any mana since he hadn't died yet. In his head, the old guy remembers how this crazy kid tried stealing his technique mid-fight. Honestly, it makes him smile. The kid's got massive potential. Walking through the huge mansion, Vince announces the real training is officially starting now. He opens a door, revealing a room packed with monsters, and tells him to face every single one. Vince says to handle them with care. The hero just sighs, saying he never thought he'd get used to this, but he accepts the crazy challenge. But plot twist, the epic challenge is literally serving tea to these beasts. The butler casually explains that a first-class swordsman never wastes a single solitary movement. Everything is perfectly optimized. So, playing waiter is the ultimate way to cut out useless motions. One little slip-up means total disaster. He says the kid needs absolute body control. After all, your skills only evolve depending on exactly how they're used. Vince points out the wild variety of monsters here, meaning the kid must figure out what each guest wants. So he starts mimicking the butler's flawless moves. But the poor guy struggles just balancing a few plates one-handed. Crash, he drops absolutely everything. Now watch closely here because while cleaning up the mess, he realizes copying the butler is almost impossible. so he decides to adapt the old man's moves into his very own style. 2 days fly by. One monster tells the newbie that Lord Vince really likes him, which totally means the kid is actually super strong. Super awkwardly, our guy admits he's weak right now, but he'll improve. Boom. The monster lunges, saying he's going to give him a painful lesson. But our boy easily dodges the attacks, and without breaking a sweat, he casually lands a brutal right hook. Fast forward to day 4, the hero spots a sick monster. Being super gentle, the kid actually tucks his customer under a blanket. Flashing a charming smile, he offers a warm drink. Gradually, he's fully grasping the secret genius behind this bizarre waiter training method. Finally, day 6 rolls around. He smoothly, almost flirtatiously, serves a tiny little bat monster. But the tiny creature knocks him completely flat, since its whole ability is basically just leeching energy. A whole week passes, and he finally serves tea to the butler. Vince says he needs massive improvement in several areas, but admits his manners are passable. Hearing that makes Yuki weirdly emotional. This whole week of bizarre tea party brawls was absolutely exhausting. He thinks the nightmare training is totally over, but the old man cuts him off. The grand finale starts right now. Without warning, Vince draws his blade fully ready for a showdown. You and I both saw this coming, right? Vince reveals the kid unconsciously copied his skill, but now he has to truly master it. Flashing a genuinely terrifying glare, he warns the kid will bite the dust if he fails. Sweating bullets, the hero loudly agrees he deserves death if he loses this fight. Using his unique ability, Yuki realizes a normal defense is completely impossible. He literally has to shut the attack down before it even happens. So our boy gambles everything on using the butler's technique. He dashes forward, but the master easily blocks. The kid's blade shatters, instantly throwing him backwards. With a totally deadpan face, the butler just calls it extremely disappointing. Battered and bruised, the kid shouts that his master doesn't decide his limits. Then he unleashes the skill again, but completely warped to fit his own crazy style. Seeing that the old man is visibly shocked, fearlessly charging back, and the hero shouts he'll win through pure volume of strikes. He attacks head-on with everything he has, but the butler still perfectly defends it. Vince admits the fierce barrage was impressive, but bluntly explains the kid is completely running out of gas. Right on cue, the hero totally passes out in his master's arms. His phone slips right out of his pocket, but the duo is already walking away. Meanwhile, Saki texts her friend saying she uncovered the wild investigation details he was asking for. She's really worried about Yuki. A B-rank dungeon might honestly be way too dangerous for him right now. A little later, our hero confidently announces that tomorrow he is facing a dungeon head-on. The butler notes the kid's style is still unfinished, but admits his swordplay is pretty decent now. Still, Liber seriously doubts an E-rank kid can survive in that dungeon. Yuki casually brushes it off, saying he's simply tagging along with the investigators. Then the man brings up his contract. Yuki casually drops the bomb that he might actually sign with them, leaving everyone in the room completely shocked. A short while later, at the Adventurer Guild, Saki finally meets up with her friend. She casually asks about his new sword training, and he's totally shocked she knows. He apologizes for the tough investigation request, but she happily waves it off. Awkwardly, she admits having him nearby is a huge relief. Suddenly, a man calls out to her. "Trust me, we're just getting started. Stick with me here." The raid is starting, and the kid asks if this loud guy is with them. Saki says, "Nope, just some random volunteer the guild brought along." Looking down, Saki sighs and says, "These guys just want easy promotions. They just want to use an S rank like her for a free carry." Sweating, the volunteer asks if our hero is A rank since he is teaming with Saki. But Yuki casually mentions he is actually E rank. Hearing that, the guy immediately starts mocking him. The volunteer instantly tells Saki to ditch the kid and just take his B rank squad instead. But she shuts him down, saying Yuki already cleared 2 dungeons completely solo. Hearing that, 2 guys in the back wonder how he is still E rank. The B rank loudmouth gets super annoyed. His whole master plan was to guide her to a clear and get promoted to A rank. But that lazy plan is completely ruined if a solo player steals the spotlight. Saki cuts the chatter. She says the dungeon they are investigating is the Sealed Wish Cave. Usually a dungeon's rank depends on how deadly its boss is. Curious, Yuki asks how they figure that out. Unrolling a map, Saki says the dungeon's layout gives it away. Rule 1, the stronger the boss, the wider and way more complicated every single floor gets. Rule 2, the tougher the big bad is, the more floors you have to clear first. Plus, if the boss uses crazy traps to protect itself, the dungeon difficulty goes up. Saki rates this place as a B rank since it only has 22 floors. But Yuki points out they still cannot find the boss room anywhere. Suddenly, a random monster drops in and attacks the squad. The volunteer smacks it and immediately starts flexing for Saki. Annoyed, she reminds him that hunting is not part of this scouting mission. Still trying to look cool, the idiot mocks our E-rank boy for doing absolutely nothing. Now watch this. He completely freezes up when a gigantic monster suddenly spawns right behind him. It is an absolutely massive stone golem. Saki and Yuki instantly rush in. The heroine unleashes her shining slash skill and totally obliterates the golem in one hit. Clearly annoyed, Saki says she does not need their combat help and tells them to just focus on investigating. Sweating a bit, Yuki apologizes, explaining he was just trying to time his attack perfectly so he wouldn't block Saki's strike. Surprised, Saki asks if he actually synced his movement with hers. He casually nods, saying it was actually a pretty tough trick to pull off. The S-rank adventurer is honestly mind-blown by the kid's hidden skill level. Smiling warmly, she praises him for saving her and doing a great job. Then she orders everyone to leave the heavy hitting to her, while Yuki focuses entirely on the search. Seeing them bond, the volunteer gets super jealous. He plans to find the boss room solo just to show off. But get this, 10 whole hours pass and there is still absolutely zero trace of this hidden boss room. Saki checks the map, confirming they have already scrubbed every single inch, including all the secret spots. Then Yuki points out a suspicious wall. The arrogant volunteer immediately snaps that the kid is clueless. He lectures him, saying dungeons are separate dimensions, made of pure mana, not just some random natural cave. Annoyed, the guy stomps over and kicks the wall hard. Getting in Yuki's face, he claims the brat will just hit a solid layer of mana and break his hand if he digs. Flashing his magic eye, Yuki casually says that is simply not true. Yuki explains the whole cave is built from the exact same stuff as that giant stone golem. Hearing that, Saki does not hesitate and blasts the wall with shining slash. The attack blows a massive hole wide open, and she orders everyone straight inside. And boom, they are staring dead at an even more massive stone golem. The arrogant volunteer is completely paralyzed by shock. You and I both saw that twist coming, right? Saki explains they were actually inside a giant golem imitating a regular dungeon. She says it was a trap to mask its true rank. Yuki realizes this must be the real first floor, which means this dungeon is absolutely gigantic. Sweating, Saki confirms this place is definitely an S-rank nightmare. Looking ahead, she spots a massive floating castle in the distance. Plus, she guesses the golem powered down to save mana, realizing it already totally failed its main objective. That objective, stopping a high-level S-rank intruder exactly like Saki. The volunteer is stunned, thinking monsters were just dumb beasts. Saki shuts him down, saying dungeons are literal frontline military bases. Yuki quietly agrees. From what he has seen, monsters use real tactics, have crazy intelligence, and sometimes even show actual emotions. Still, Saki smiles, saying they are super lucky to ambush the boss before it completely turtles up. All fired up, she declares the scouting is done and the real raid begins. Pointing at a portal, she orders the rest of the squad to head back and warn the guild. But she casually makes one exception for Yuki, asking if he wants to stay. Surprised, he asks why. Saki claims she needs an information runner. Trust me, you are going to want to see what happens next. Stick with me here. Stepping closer, the girl pulls our hero in straight up, telling him that this time both of them are making it back home alive. With a heavy nod, our boy agrees. Thinking about everyone he actually cares about, he swears nobody else is dying today. Fired up, the heroine literally scoops her friend right into her arms. Activating her skill, Luminous Formula, she rockets off into the sky. Left behind and super confused, the volunteer complains he is totally blind now. Absolutely fuming, he swears he refuses to go back empty-handed. Meanwhile, our duo speedruns their way straight down to the absolute bottom of this dungeon. Out of nowhere, a voice echoes, shocked that a human made it this deep solo. It is the boss herself, dropping from the ceiling entirely upside down. She introduces herself as Carrot the Jewel Golem and claims she will be the most stunning demon king ever. Saki instantly realizes this massive golem has been hoarding mana non-stop. The demon smirks, admitting she has been slowly upgrading her gorgeous looks. Then boom, she launches herself straight at our hero. He dodges her heavy strikes like it is absolute child's play. Gripping his sword, Yuki realizes she is ridiculously fast and one solid hit means game over. But he is not sweating it. Compared to his butler, this queen is moving in slow motion. Our boy lands a solid sword strike, but it totally bounces off. Her crystal body is insanely tanky, but the hero calmly says he just needs to force one opening. Perfect timing, Saki flashes right behind the boss. She immediately triggers her insane skill, Luminous Break. Completely caught off guard, the boss whines about getting scratched. Smirking, our S-rank girl says that little mark proves her shiny body is definitely breakable. Hanging back, the protagonist just watches his friend totally flex her ridiculous skills. Sensing danger, the girl realizes their enemy is cooking up a trap. Sword ready, she warns the hero to keep his guard up. The duo rushes in together, spamming attacks to wear the boss down, but Carrot laughs and says she already figured out their biggest weak point. Now, pay attention here. The hero stops dead in his tracks, warning that this demon is pulling an absolutely ridiculous amount of mana. Outside the room, that giant golem shifts, completely blocking their only exit portal. The boss mocks them, saying they will be crushed if they do not act fast. That is when Saki realizes she has been hoarding golem parts this whole time. Her brain goes into overdrive, trying to counter both the demon and the massive stone golem. Suddenly, her friend shouts out to her, The protagonist declares he will hold the boss off so she cannot run wild. Breathing a huge sigh of relief, the girl agrees and sprints out of the combat zone. Carrot laughs in his face, teasing that he cannot scratch her, and was obviously left behind as a sacrifice. He claps back that it is not abandonment, it is pure confidence. Right then, Yuki thinks about every single person who has believed in him. Gripping his blade, he vows to prove their trust right. The crazy part, when the golem actually senses the boy's raw mana, it gets legitimately terrified. The hero announces that from this second forward he is fighting like a real monster tamer. With one incredibly heavy strike, he casually slices a huge chunk off the golem. He smirks, explaining he literally just redirected the boss's own power, zero wasted effort. The demon fires back with a healing slash aimed at Carrot. She immediately goes on the offensive, but our boy easily deflects it with his sword. Moving fast, he lands another hit, slicing the golem again. Super annoyed, she realizes he has been totally using her momentum this whole time. Yuki just nods and agrees, I am a monster tamer. Carrot totally loses her mind over her ruined outer shell. Screaming about real skills, she straight up evolves like a Pokemon. You and I both know, this means her stats and looks just went completely off the charts. Absolutely raging, she declares this brat is not even worthy of joining her fancy collection anymore. Instead, she vows to crush him into absolute dust. She throws a massive punch, but our protagonist barely manages to slip past it. Sweating a bit, he roasts her, saying she lacks creativity since she always hid behind her minions. Carrot argues that bigger jewels mean way more value. But the hero fires back, a jewel's worth is all about a beautiful cut. Raising his sword, he triggers his insane blood skill. Completely baffled, she asks how a mere human is using a literal monster skill. Taking his stance, the hero unleashes his own custom version, dealing absolutely devastating damage to the boss. After that epic strike, he realizes he is badly bleeding. Collapsed on the ground, the boss rages, completely unable to accept that she had to sacrifice her beautiful body just to survive that terrifying attack. Playing dirty, she randomly lunges at the kid, but he perfectly parries her cheap shot like he just activated a literal Sharingan. Absolutely desperate, she taunts him, asking what a half-dead kid can even do now. Smiling right back, he begins a summon, calling out this incredibly cute little bat. Flashback time, we learn the kid plans to literally reuse the extra blood he banked with his bat. Yuki casually explains this broken skill chugs blood, but pre-drinking gives him 2 full shots at using it. His butler Vince freaks out, arguing that humans only get 1 monster contract, and botching both attempts basically means instant game over for the boy. But Yuki is built different. He plans to use his own red juice for shot 1, guaranteeing the second attempt will work perfectly. Vince panics, warning that this completely puts the kid's life on the line. So what do you and I make of this? He is doing it anyway, against the boss. Stick with me here, we are about to meet Yuki, a wild monster tamer who uses friends and enemies equally. Wasting 0 time, he lands an absolutely devastating blow on Carrot, wiping her out completely. With total confidence, our boy claims he is human despite contracting with the Demon King. Once the boss drops, massive mana just explodes everywhere. He absorbs so much raw energy he just completely blacks out. Luckily, Saki dives in time to catch his fall. She is totally mind-blown, he pulled this off solo. Fast forward and the press is swarming. Some suit takes the mic announcing that the hero behind this crazy dungeon incident is about to step up and explain everything. He hypes up the one who did all the heavy lifting to clear it. And boom it is, S-rank adventurer Saki. Saki steps up to the mic. But honestly, Yuki totally dumped this PR nightmare on her because he had way more important things to do. Speaking of which, our hero comes sprinting back, begging the butler to confirm the resurrection worked. May smirks, noting the kid showed up perfectly on cue for the finale. Vince warns our boy to look away from the ritual, or the intense mana might fry his eyes. The head maid drops, the hammer break time is over. Elvina. She refuses to let her wander the underworld forever, immediately activating an underworld skill. In a flash, the zombie maid wakes up, totally bewildered to see her young master. She straight up asks if he died too, but Yuki nervously explains that she actually came back to life. Realizing the head maid did this, the zombie is stunned. She totally thought she had died for absolutely nothing. Relieved, Yuki says he is just glad she is okay. Deadpan as ever, she asks if calling a zombie okay is some weird undead joke. Totally ruining the vibe, Vince interrupts. They both have work to do, so time to change clothes. Elvina is super confused, is her master a butler now? Before Vince can explain, the head maid tosses them their brand new work uniforms. Swapped into his new gear, Yuki is honestly pretty impressed. Now watch closely, Vince says he is playing king today. He opens the door and the monster crowd goes absolutely wild. Yuki is completely lost. Liber pops up explaining that the dungeon he cleared was overflowing with pure mana. The mage chimes in, thanks to that energy they resurrected way more people than expected. Liber grins. These monsters came back entirely because of our human hero, so they demanded a meetup. The monster mob swarms him, hyping him up for an all-night drinking bash. But before Yuki can even answer, Elvina yanks his blazer and brutally drags him away. The vampire laughs, saying the kid should just soak in the gratitude like a true monster tamer. But Yuki knows the truth. He did not do this for the monsters, he did it purely to save Elvina. Scanning the room full of cheering monsters, his mind suddenly drifts back to the orphanage. Smiling, he admits he is just glad everyone is safe. Out of nowhere, a wolf praises him as Lord Vince's best disciple, totally shocking the maid. Vince sighs, thinking the boy still needs way more training. The vampire instantly realizes the old man secretly adores the kid. Smirking, he points out that Vince even personally tailored the boy's clothes. But the butler fires back that the boss did the exact same thing. The vampire confesses he never expected this human to actually command the monsters, instead of becoming their puppet. He admits the kid totally exceeded all expectations. But honestly, the way the vampire is staring at him right now feels super suspicious. Let's pause a second. Back at Saki's interview, a reporter demands she stop stalling and drop the real evidence. He accuses her of hiding some insanely powerful monster, threatening to confiscate it for himself. Cut to that night. This sketchy guy traps one of Saki's volunteers in an alley, demanding answers. Panicking hard, the A-rank volunteer spills Yuki's name. Instantly, the hooded creep recalls a weak kid matching that exact description. Terrified, the guy swears he is completely innocent here, but the mysterious man smiles. He is definitely not letting him walk away. Fast forward to the very next day. Yuki is heading out for a special meeting. He stops by the Great Cave Memorial to leave flowers for the fallen. Looking at them, he desperately wishes he could update his old orphanage family. Suddenly, he spots a shadowy figure waiting. Crouching nearby, the guy introduces himself as Zapper, an A-class adventurer. He claims he is here to monitor him, but Yuki instantly plays dumb, reminding him he is just E-rank. Zapper sees right through it. He knows Yuki cleared that fake dungeon and tells him to drop the innocent act. Sharp as a knife, Zapper calls him out. He knows the whole plan was using Saki as a shield to avoid the spotlight. Yuki argues he just guided them to safety. You and I know he's completely lying. Stick with me here. The hooded guy argues our kid actually dropped the dungeon boss, while the heroine was busy fighting off those golems. This guy claims cheap disposable pawns will not cut it for clearing a dungeon. He says you need high-tier weapons to pull in serious cash. Hearing this pitch, our hero totally assumes the guy wants to join up. Zapper points out the kid is flying solo, and there is a hard limit to what anyone can do without solid backup. He says running with a party changes everything and drops an invite. Sweating a bit, our protagonist politely declines, saying, dungeon grinding for cash just isn't his goal. The man stays chillingly calm, shrugging off the rejection like it is no big deal. But then his whole vibe flips to pure psycho mode. He says violence, it is swinging a massive fire hammer that our hero barely dodges. Flames explode everywhere. Visibly annoyed, Yuki snaps at him to stop trashing a literal cemetery. Pushing up his glasses, the psycho admits surface magic is illegal, but turning down his party invite is a way bigger sin. Suddenly, he grabs the kid. Zapper shoves his hand in the boy's face and fires off his ice-binding skill. The gray-haired freak says our boy was born for dungeon diving. He smacks the kid's head, threatening to hijack every single dungeon he ever enters. Watch closely. Zapper calls himself a skill killer, laughs off adventurers, and tells our kid to go cry at the guild. Walking away, he tosses back a threat, saying he expects a yes before the kid ends up dead. Later on, the vampire is absolutely furious. Someone tried poaching his pawn. The protagonist insists they desperately need to plan a solid counterattack. Vince bluntly points out the kid messed up by ditching his sword. Our boy argues it was his day off, plus his super low level gets him interrogated constantly. Still, he admits he was basically dead meat either way until he figures out how to actually counter that magic. Then Liber jumps in, pointing out that a monster tamer just needs a solid monster who casts magic. Right on cue, a monster named Machina Muchea drops in, an actual elf. The vampire claims nobody gets magic like she does. Later, giving him a floor tour, the elf complains about hating that old butler. Yuki mentions she has never seen her at the tea parties. Highly annoyed, the elf says she skips bat parties since she is not even 1,000 yet. She insists she is only 14.99. Suddenly, getting this massive love-struck grin, she schemes how the old man will totally rage if she buffs his disciple past him. Spinning her own wild fanfic, she imagines the butler losing his mind with jealousy over this whole fake forbidden love triangle. Flipping the script, the elf agrees to teach him magic, noting that heavy research totally requires mental stimulation. We both felt that panic. She reveals a massive library, and he asks if he must read it all. Machina smirks, saying there is way more since her entire floor is basically built out of stacked books. She flat out roasts him for not knowing what magic even is. He argues it is just using mana, so the elf suddenly leans in, asking him to explain the exact difference between magic and a skill. She breaks it down cleanly. Skills are personal techniques, while magic is totally universal. Skills fall into 3 buckets, she says. First up are job class skills. Second are your totally unique racial abilities. And the third type, those unlock only when you push a fully mastered technique to an absolute god-tier level. Wrapping up, she calls them literal cheat codes that only work thanks to a person's body, sweat, and raw talent. That means you cannot always copy them, and two visually identical skills might be completely different beasts on the inside. She asks if he has ever felt that gap, and he admits learning that painful lesson the hard way. Moving on, she explains that if two people spend identical mana and chant exactly alike, they get the exact same result. It is an absolute universal rule. But Makina drops the harsh truth. Some people simply cannot cast magic. Why? Because chanting is incredibly difficult. You literally need a whole book of words just to fire off one tiny spell. Puzzled by this, our hero points out he has never seen anyone chant that long during combat. So the elf explains mages cheat the system by using special staffs, carving out magic circles, or just mentally speedrunning the chants. The deeper you study, the more sneaky tricks you unlock. Boom, she suddenly summons that crazy fire hammer. Makina calls this a chantless cast. She tells our boy he can pull it off by vividly picturing the weapon and shouting the mental trigger phrase. It is a super basic skill, but the firepower scales with how perfectly you understand the actual original chant. The caster can mentally replay the entire text, or simply just use an image or sound. Yuki chimes in. Realizing this, perfectly explains why a spell can look completely identical, but hit with totally different results. Makina grins, saying once our boy grasps that core concept, he can finally make the magic his own. Plus, he can keep just fragments of the chant and pump in his own raw power to match the destructive force of a full spell. Makes you wonder, right? Excited, he asks if magic is basically just memorizing chants. Let's jump right back in. The elf cuts him off. Memorizing is totally fine, but that's all he'll ever achieve. She breaks it down. A chant is basically a spell's instruction manual. He needs to understand it to invent or tweak magic. Makina then adds that since humans have super short lifespans, he really ought to be grateful for her help. Right on cue, she casts a spell that projects an entire book into reality. She explains this space is her fire magic book. If he clears this virtual dungeon, he learns everything inside. Smirking, Yuki grabs his sword. He claims clearing dungeons is his specialty. But suddenly, two massive monsters spawn alongside an insane mountain of books. The boy sweat drops. Does he seriously have to clear all this? His new master nods. Does he think it's impossible? He answers by slicing a monster right in half. Fired up, our hero swears he'll finish it fast. Cut to 3 whole days later, he's still grinding through the virtual dungeon. Right now, he's battling a wind beast. It blasts him away with a tornado, but Makina saves his life using an air capture spell. Completely deadpan, she tells her brand new student he has 0 talent. Annoyed, our guy admits he finally gets why adventurers hate chanting. Mid-fight, it leaves you completely wide open. But the elf explains magic wasn't actually built for fighting. It's for tricking the world and rewriting reality. Hearing that, our hero decides to try a simple stone arrow, but without chanting, the power drop is just embarrassing. His teacher sighs. This is where real talent actually shows up. She straight up roasts his lack of imagination. Without chanting, none of his elemental attacks carry even a little bit of weight. In his head, the boy panics. Like this, he'll never beat Zapper. That hooded creep can just counter any spell and cast lightning fast. Trying to stay positive, Makina suggests trying wind magic next. Continuing the grind, Yuki hopes he'll eventually stumble onto an element he doesn't suck at. But he also wonders, does a monster like Zapper have any weaknesses? Now pay close attention here. Over at some camp, the gray-haired boss just got word someone entered that deadly S-rank dungeon, so the boss decides to dive right in. His squad instantly panics, begging him not to risk it. He admits it's super dangerous, but honestly, he couldn't care less. Out of nowhere, a massive worm drops from the sky to crush them. It lunges at Zapper, who doesn't even blink. Ice-cold Zapper casually fires off a massive multi-element combo spell, completely obliterating the giant monster. One of his goons is totally speechless, seeing him use every element. The leader reminds them S-rank dungeons are lethal. That's exactly why they need to catch their target before he goes deeper. A minion whines about the giant worm's damage, but the boss ignores him. He refuses to waste mana on useless trash. He's saving his energy for someone special, meaning our boy Yuki. Meanwhile, Makina tells her student he's still hopelessly untalented. Sprawled on the floor, the hero dramatically cries that he couldn't cast a single proper spell. The elf sighs. Since he's absolute garbage with the main elements, there's no point even trying the smaller insect stuff. Dusting himself off, Yuki mutters he'll just have to survive with what he has. Hearing that loser talk, his teacher completely snaps. They haven't even finished step 1 of training. Fired up, she declares magic is about rewriting the universe, including basic common sense. Glaring daggers, she absolutely forbids him from giving up. Still totally confused, our guy asks what he's supposed to do. You and I knew she had a trick. Smiling, she tells the kid to completely break the rules and invent his own. The next step is applied magic, and she says he already knows enough theory. So the boy asks the golden question, is he supposed to invent a brand new spell he doesn't suck at? Exactly. Machina explains he needs to use pure instinct to bend mana and rewrite reality matching a chant. She's mid-lecture when something suddenly catches her eye. Spotting the threat, the elf instantly preps water magic. It's Zapper casually charging up fire magic. Sweating bullets, our boy asks why he's here. Turns out they definitely got tracked. Whipping up a magic circle, his teacher yells at him to survive using his own magic. Boom, the protagonist gets teleported to a random floor. The hooded creep smirks, claiming the kid was hiding his true power. He demands an answer. And trust me, you'll want to see this. The villain fires a deadly blast, but our guy dodges. Zapper chuckles, saying the kid's defiant glare tells him everything. Alright, stick with me here. The gray-haired guy throws an earth spell, but Yuki casually blocks it with his sword, completely shocking him. Next, a mud spell literally drags our hero down. Panicking, Yuki starts chanting, but boom, a wind hammer completely interrupts him before his cast even finishes. The villain smirks, claiming Yuki's magic is totally useless if he constantly relies on chanting. But Yuki gets back up. With zero other options left, he knows he just has to invent a brand new spell right now. Charging forward, sword in hand, Yuki closes the gap. But the hooded mage just blasts him violently away with a brutal lightning strike to the chest. Lying there crushed, he realizes miracles never actually happen for guys like him. Everyone who abandoned him, gone for good. Suddenly, crazy wind magic sends boulders crashing down, giving our bleeding hero the absolute perfect chance to run and hide. Totally exhausted and ready to quit, a mysterious voice suddenly echoes in his mind, loudly calling him first disciple. Startled, Yuki looks around, but his teacher smoothly admits it was just her mental magic. She tells him his magic knowledge is already top tier. His only real problem, he just needs to finally figure out what kind of spell to create. The elf master tells him to let his raw emotions flow and weaponize them. Flashing back to every tragedy he suffered, Yuki realizes he only feels one thing, pure, unadulterated rage. Right on cue, Zapper appears to finish him off. Wasting no time, the hooded guy launches a massive fire attack, but it literally does absolutely nothing. Watching from afar, the elf happily calls it a really great spell. Now watch this next part closely. Standing behind a purple shield, Yuki fiercely declares this spell is born from pure rage, designed to straight up cancel magic itself. Completely annoyed, the gray-haired mage aggressively demands to know how it erased his attacks. He screams that he's kicking the kid out of the party, and honestly, he's just going to kill him right here. He spams heavy lightning and water attacks, but they still do zero damage. His master explains, normal magic uses mana to rewrite the world, but Yuki's new void attribute, it literally does the exact opposite of all that. Laughing out loud, she calls it void magic, bragging that only her crazy, troublesome disciple could pull off something this insanely overpowered. Totally out of patience, Zapper threatens to overload the boy with an absolute massive wave of pure magic. He fires deadly fire, water, and lightning all at once. Seeing this crazy elemental combo, Yuki knows simply defending won't save him anymore. So Yuki creates a dark void sword and fiercely rushes the sorcerer. Smiling bright, Machina praises her disciple's top-tier combat knowledge. Panicking hard, the man hastily throws up heavy ice and wind barriers, but our hero slices right through them like wet paper. The hooded guy tries a desperate fire blast, but Yuki's magic shield instantly tanks it without even leaving a scratch. Sweating bullets, Zapper realizes his mana is basically running empty, while our protagonist fiercely sprints right at him. You and I both know what's coming next. Yuki activates Flow, summoning multiple void swords floating dangerously right beside him. The villain sees the kid closing the gap, still arrogantly thinking he can throw up a defense in time. Out of options, he literally blasts himself with a wind hammer to escape. Laughing like a coward, he promises to spare the kid today, swearing he'll easily win next time. Using Windwing to fly away, Zapper angrily screams that he'll absolutely shatter the kid's annoying void magic. Freaking out, his master suddenly appears, screaming not to let him escape. She aggressively refuses to let that creepy old man laugh in their faces later. But Yuki stays perfectly calm, saying he has a plan. He asks permission to finally remove the heavy restriction on his hand. High up, the hooded man flees for his life, but suddenly hears a massive full magic chant echoing from below. He completely panics. There is absolutely no way the kid has enough mana left for that after a fight. Without hesitating, he speeds up his retreat. But epic plot twist, the one chanting is actually Mei, Yuki's summoned familiar. Smiling proudly, our hero explains he taught Mei via their mental link, proving his monster tamer allies can easily handle the heavy lifting for him. Right on cue, the head maid fires a terrifying black arrow. Zapper instantly deploys a shiny holy shield, but the arrow punches cleanly right through it like it's nothing. Infused with Yuki's void magic, the brutal arrow attack is so devastatingly powerful it finishes off the evil mage forever. Meanwhile, up at the surface entrance, a heavily armed squad of men is fully gathered. One mentions their captain is still busy clearing another dungeon, noting their only real threats are the A-rank Zapper and that rookie adventurer Yuki. Suddenly, our boy steps right out of the portal, dragging a knocked-out Zapper over his shoulder. Instantly, the guards point their sharp spears and loudly declare the hero is officially under arrest. Completely shocked, Yuki realizes this is the guild's elite execution squad. A squad mage named Nano confidently steps forward, warning the young man not to move an inch. Totally confused, our protagonist loudly asks why he's even getting arrested here. A guard claims they got a massive pile of adventurer complaints about him. Desperate Yuki yells that he's literally the only victim in this entire mess. Zapper wakes up blasting fire. Yuki summons his void saber, and trust me, you and I don't want to miss this upcoming fight. Alright, you and I are jumping right into the chaos. Guards rush the gray-haired man, but boom, thunder explosion sending everyone flying. Moving fast, he grabs the mage as a hostage, screaming at everyone to back off. Zapper then summons a ton of magic circles. Our guy panics. It is a massive area spell and he cannot shield everyone here. He yells at the guards to hide behind his shield's shadow. But right then, a totally mysterious girl just walks in. Her power actually lets her see the enemy's mana drain. Meet Genki, the execution squad captain and one seriously tough knight. Looking completely bored, she drops a skill called Clumsy Dragon. Crazy enough, it hits the target with an arrow before the bow even fires. Absolutely furious, the gray-haired guy throws up his stone binding to defend himself. With a smirk, she says she needs Yuki's magic. The kid is totally stunned. Following her lead, our hero swings his void saber as Zapper scrambles to block. Then the captain just fires arrows at both of them. The kid has no clue why, but he blocks with his void shield anyway. Looking smug, the girl says she knew he could take it. You are probably wondering the same thing. How does she know his every move? Meanwhile, Genki literally teleports behind Zapper and smashes him with everything she has. Seeing him drop, the guards swarm in for the arrest. The girl then thanks Yuki for the magic assist. Super curious, the boy asks how she knew exactly what he could do. The captain explains her power is invisible vision, the Gingan. Basically, it lets her read anyone's status screen. She notes it is pretty much like his evil eye. Then a guard walks up to discuss the kid's whole legal mess. But the captain shuts him down fast, declaring Yuki helped them, so all the weird suspicions against him should be wiped clean. The guard approaches our hero, admitting that the crazy accusations must have been one massive misunderstanding. Still, he explains they cannot officially apologize just yet, since the paperwork is still messy. Yuki waves it off, just glad the air is cleared. He even offers to help them investigate Zapper if they need a hand. Changing the subject, the guard points out that dungeon was S rank. Going in there completely alone was a huge, reckless mistake. He reminds him that dungeon diving requires strict permits and running solo breaks all the rules. The knight argues Yuki is clearly strong enough, but the guard fires back, that is just her opinion and he is only E rank. A bit awkward, the captain pitches a deal. She tells our guy to help clear a specific dungeon of their choice. That way Dugo can officially test his skills, hopefully getting him out of any interrogations or jail time. Shocked, the hero asks why they are being so nice. Genki explains that pushing dungeon progress is literally everything for human survival. Trust me, we are all hyped to see his monster tamer strategy. Sometime later, Liber tells the kid to just clear the dungeon like he usually does. But Yuki stresses out, saying he will absolutely lose his adventurer license if he brings along any monster that can talk. He is stressing over his options, especially since he cannot bring Elvina or the little bat who is still healing from their last run. Right on cue, the Demon King suggests chatting with Task, a guy who literally knows everything. Curious, the hero asks if this guy is a crazy specialist like Machina. Wildly enough, the vampire says this guy is literally the collective will of all dungeon monsters. Later on, the boy visits Task, admitting he needs a true monster expert. Hearing this, the Foxman lights up, joking that they are basically total soulmates now. Scooping the hero right into a huge hug, he introduces himself as Task Wild, explaining that studying monsters is literally coded into his DNA. The Foxman sighs, pointing out humans have zero clue what monsters are actually like. Yuki answers honestly to humans monsters are just dangerous things living inside these dungeons. His new mentor says the kid is not wrong. But he drops some lore monsters are actually beings constantly hunting for mana. Following that logic, our hero asks if humans count as monsters too. Task smiles and says absolutely yes. Curious, the kid asks if Task feels loyal to his own species. Task drops a truth bomb for monsters sharing a mana source matters way more than just looking the same. He explains that being born in the exact same dungeon creates a deeper bond than race. It suddenly clicks for Yuki, it is way more about affiliation than species. Super excited, Wild leans in. He asks if the kid wants a quiet, chill monster for dungeon runs. Yuki nods, explaining he needs a versatile beast since he can only summon one at a time. With a massive grin, Task says he has the perfect idea. He proudly presents a dragon, the reliable boss of the first floor. This absolute tank boasts insane health and seriously ridiculous firepower. But the dragon just spits fire right at our boy, panicking. He asks why it attacked out of nowhere. And that's where we leave it. Wild reveals it is the exact same dragon they ran from before. Let's jump into the action. Our guy gears up to fight, but shockingly, the dragon straight up ignores him. Yuki looks down totally deflated. Even if he scored a contract with this beast, he admits he lacks the mana to actually summon it. Task gets hyped again, mentioning they have tons of smaller monsters. He points out the Shadow Claw, a pure living shadow creature. Seeing this thing, the hero's face lights up, totally brand new to him. He steps closer. To lock in the contract, he either has to strike a mutual deal or beat the respect out of it. But nope, the little shadow darts off instantly. Yuki literally drops to his knees, begging to know why every monster keeps ghosting him. Wild gives it to him straight. His mana is pathetic, so the monsters mock him. These beasts run purely on instinct, way too dumb to respect weaklings. But Task steps in, offering to fix the kid's little problem. He explains his chimera race. Basically, he is a walking hybrid, made of countless different monsters. This wild ability lets Task freely mix his own genetics, shapeshifting into other beasts and altering his stats. Suddenly, the little shadow thing zips right back. The fox guy promises backup, but winning this monster's respect, that is entirely on Yuki. The kid braces for combat. The monster charges at lightning speed, but Yuki manages a solid block with his blade. Watch closely because he realizes right here, this fight will be brutally tough. Task mentions the Eye Owl, a dark magic user, is crashing the party too. It blasts magic at him, which Yuki barely deflects with his void sword. Yuki knows this is purely an endurance test. He has to wait for the perfect opening. Sword gripped tight, he waits for the charge. The attack hits, he blocks it head on, only to realize it was actually a chunk of ice. Way up there, the owl is still circling. Completely annoyed, the hero resolves to hunt that bird down at all costs. Right then, Wild throws another beast into the chaotic mix, a massive crab. He braces himself, ready to go absolutely wild. But his mentor summons yet another enemy, and this one is super poisonous. Realizing he can't safely get close, the kid actually passes out. But with his very last ounce of strength, he summons Elvina for backup. Later on, Wild warns him the lower floors get crazier, but our guy casually brushes the danger off. He claims he's nearly died enough times already. Hype Man Task reminds him this is Liber's dungeon, so just surviving multiple beasts is highly impressive. As payback for the help, Task asks the kid to fetch him monsters from totally different locations. The fox dude explains that collecting them helps him understand his own chimera body better. Flashing a smile, he admits that is exactly why he believes in the kid. He requests the monsters be brought back alive if possible. Pondering this, Yuki realizes his current summons pack a punch, but none are truly versatile in battle. Suddenly, he raises his hand, grinning like a total maniac, ready to test a crazy new idea. Now here's where things get real for us. A guard briefs him on his next challenge, a B-rank dungeon, 4 floors, completely different terrains per level. The catch: he has a strict 1-week time limit, and he must clear it entirely solo. Near the cave entrance, the guard asks if he has any final questions. Yuki confidently says he's ready. The guard eyes him, wondering if he thinks this is just a scouting mission. Still, the captain clearly trusts the kid's power to send him into a B rank. 1 hour later, they finally hit the end of the first floor. The guard is completely stunned that the hero hasn't used a single summon yet. Out of nowhere, spears fly at the protagonist, forcing a quick dodge. A massive pack of demon monkeys suddenly swarms the area, ready to attack. Backed into a corner, he finally calls on his monster. He summons the mighty Shadow Claw. The creature violently tears through the monkeys. The guard's jaw drops. Shocked, he actually contracted a Shadow Claw. He instantly realizes this kid is no rookie. He is just like their captain, easily soloing insane dungeons. Pushing forward, our hero hits the 3rd floor, basically an underground ocean. Instantly, a massive giant squid monster surfaces to attack him. Here, the Shadow Claw is absolutely useless since the little guy cannot swim in water, so he recalls his summon. Wasting zero time, Yuki brings out the giant crab, basically the ultimate weapon for this zone. Witnessing this, the guard freezes. Performing multiple summons of high-level beasts is completely unheard of. Flashing back, Task decides to test the absolute limits of Wild's Beast Encyclopedia skill. The kid explains this skill copies an enemy's exact form and stats, so he wonders if 2 monsters would basically fuse together if Task gets summoned mid-transformation. Wild admits he has never tried it, wondering why. So what do you and I take from this genius plan? Yuki lacks mana for the fox guy's true form, but if Task transforms first, it works. He can summon anything through his master. Let's dive right in. The guy agrees to test it, so our hero suggests a contract and his buddy completely agrees. Flashing a completely unhinged look, Wild declares he's about to unleash absolutely everything he's got. Cut back to reality, the man confirms their plan totally worked, amazed by how insanely strong those tentacles really are. Right then, our boy activates his magic eye, instantly locking onto the enemy's hidden weak point. Boom, overwhelming strength. The giant crab actually takes down the massive octopus. Dropping to the next floor, our hero walks straight into a field of nasty magic traps. No sweat, he summons his magic owl, ordering it to blast the magic circles. Flash forward, and they've already crushed their way down to the 7th floor, the deadly poison swamp. Activating his magic eye again, Yuki quietly analyzes the best possible route. In the back, Doga realizes this kid is moving faster than an entire squad. Suddenly, our hero's instincts flare up loudly, warning the guard to watch his step. Too late, a massive snake attacks the man, though he barely manages a block. Not missing a beat, Yuki instantly summons his own special snake to handle things. In literally 1 second, he completely heals the guy's arm. Protected again, Doga bursts into actual tears, overwhelmed by genuine human kindness. But then, the guy suddenly bursts into maniacal laughter, which totally freaks our poor kid out. Ripping off his mask, the guard finally admits his own judgment is straight garbage compared to the captain's. Smiling huge, he praises the kid as an absolutely incredible adventurer. He confidently declares that together they can definitely clear this entire dungeon in just a week. Now watch closely, this is where it gets insane. Our boy argues they're clearing everything today. The guard assumed that outfit was just for scouting, but nope, he's dead wrong. Sweating a bit, Doga points out that reaching the final floor isn't actually that rare. The real nightmare, the final boss. Literally nobody has ever survived beating this thing. Face dropping, he asks if this crazy kid seriously thinks he can finish everything in one single day. Yuki just nods. He's already figured out the perfect strategy. He calmly explains he already ran a hardcore combat simulation against the actual monster. Just like that, they hit the boss room staring down a horrifying giant spider. Our hero readies his stance. This nightmare uses its 8 massive threads to literally puppet other monsters. It can control 4 different monsters from every single floor all at once. Suddenly, an entire mob of monsters rushes our boy Yuki, quickly summons his trusty owl, smoothly dodging their heavy attacks. Zero hesitation. He dismisses the bird midair, free-falling straight down into the roaring monster pack. Bam! He summons the giant crab, instantly smashing a group of beasts into the floor. But the horde keeps multiplying, and the guard absolutely starts losing his mind. Ice-cold Yuki swaps his crab for the deadly Shadow Claw. So far, everything is going exactly to his master plan. See, he trained with Task before this mission. The fox guy actually transformed into a giant spider to perfectly simulate this exact boss fight. During that simulation, his master dropped a crucial hint: the spider can only manipulate completely unconscious targets. You and I both know what's coming, right? He plans to use his snake to instantly cancel the paralysis on those brainwashed monsters. But Wild points out he can only seal their movement temporarily. He asks if our boy is banking on attacking through that tiny opening. Smirking Yuki claims he's got a way better idea. Flashback to the fight, he shouts that instinct-driven monsters only respect one thing: absolute raw strength. Eyes locked, our hero charges right in, sword drawn, declaring he's going to become their new master. He tracks the spider's glowing web, waiting for the perfect opening. Right on cue, the boss drags several massive octopuses straight into its frontline army. Firing off his skill, our boy summons the antidote snake to completely wipe out the tentacle paralysis effect. The snake executes the order instantly, leaving the giant spider absolutely furious. 3 steps ahead, Yuki mocks the boss, knowing it can't handle 4 giant monsters breaking free at once. Boom, right on cue, massive tentacles grab the spider, slamming it brutally into the cold stone floor. Now free, the beasts immediately rush our hero, but he totally saw this coming. He drops the giant crab like a massive meat shield. Even better, he uses the colossal crab as a literal springboard to launch himself upwards. Blade flashing, our hero slices straight through the spider's puppet threads, instantly clearing the entire mission. Not even a single scratch on him. He casually tells the guard it's over. The poor guy is sweating bullets, realizing this kid just weaponized the dungeon's own boss mechanics against it. Buzzing with excitement, the kid walks over to the guard, cheerfully asking if he officially passed. Smiling, the man guarantees this kid is going to skyrocket in rank, easily, strong enough to chain clear dungeons. Hyped beyond belief, our hero immediately asks if he can start doing solo runs now. The guy gives him a yes, but insists he'll personally handpick the absolute best dungeons for the kid's rapid rank-up grind over these final 6 days. Hearing that, our boy realizes his genius speedrun strategy actually just made his own life way harder. Boom, 6 days flash by, and now Yuki is finally marching straight into his very last dungeon. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this next part. The guard explains this is actually a joint investigation mission hunting an ultra-rare named monster. Super curious, our boy admits he's completely clueless about that type of rare monster. Let's dive right back in. The guy explains it's a technical term, just like that carrot monster he fought before. Basically, every species has variations. But sometimes, a beast mutates way past its normal limits and becomes something truly terrifying. When unlucky adventurers stumble across one of these superpowered freaks, they slap a nickname on it just to track it. Task drops some bad news. He absolutely cannot copy abilities from these special bosses. This makes Yuki suddenly recall Makina's lesson on ability types. Remember, the first type comes from your actual job class, the second from your species, and the third from individual traits. Wild chimes in bragging that he's a named monster too since his skill is completely unique. Our boy immediately asks if these named guys can hit Demon King power levels. The guard nods grimly. It's happened before, which is exactly why these investigations matter. He adds that checking these things out takes massive teamwork. Suddenly, a team member spots our MC and realizes he's the crazy adventurer solo clearing massive dungeons. A girl instantly questions how a weak monster tamer could possibly pull that off all alone. Soon the whole squad is loudly gossiping about our boy, completely ignoring the fact that he's standing right there. Feeling super awkward, the guard tries to explain that totally weird adventurers just naturally attract wild rumors and crazy titles. Then the peanut gallery finally recognizes the guard standing beside him. Doga just looks down humbly, claiming he only keeps the peace between wild adventurers. Now pay close attention. Out of nowhere, an army of monstrous trees ambushes the group. Our hero instantly dashes in slicing roots with his sword alongside his trusty pet. While the absolute chaos unfolds, the guard quickly heals a wounded teammate. Scanning with his magic eye, the MC orders everyone to strike at once. They follow his lead, and in no time the killer trees are totally wiped out. Catching his breath, Yuki sighs. There are still way too many monsters swarming this dungeon floor. Doga notes it's just a C-rank zone, but totally abandoned and annoying to reach. Apparently only crazy dedicated guys like our MC ever bother clearing dumps like this. Then his magic eye locks onto something. He finally found the main investigation target. It looks like a ridiculously cute magical rabbit. Of course, one reckless idiot immediately sprints forward to attack the thing. Spotting the threat, the little Pokemon casts a skill called Total Chaos Labyrinth. Instantly, massive stone walls start exploding out of the ground. This insane skill literally redesigns the whole dungeon map. Even with heavy rocks crushing down, those two fools keep blindly charging in. Suddenly, the very floor shatters. Our hero quickly tells the guard he is going in for the rescue. Doga tosses him an emergency device, warning the kid to use it if things go south. Gripping the gadget, our guy leaps straight down into the dark abyss after them. Squinting through the dust, Yuki finally spots the missing duo. They are completely cornered by an absolutely gigantic monster. This boss is actually intelligent. It growls about someone hunting its subordinates slowly, pointing a massive finger at the adventurers, then straight at our boy. I know what you're thinking, boss fight time. Oh yeah. Lord Xerus vows to completely erase them. Sweating bullets, our MC feels its ridiculous mana and instantly knows it's the boss. But why the heck is a dungeon boss hanging out on such a shallow floor? Flaunting a truly terrifying aura, Xerus prepares to absolutely crush the annoying humans who trashed his home. He unleashes a brutal move called Rupture Root Piercing Grudge. Our hero instantly summons his giant crab just in time to tank the massive hit. Seeing that block, the giant monster is genuinely impressed that one of them can fight. Task groans that the attack seriously hurt, warning he can't absorb hits like that forever. Acting fast, the hero chucks Doga's device to the adventurers, screaming at them to stay back. Yuki's magic eye literally can't read the monster's stats. He instantly realizes this boss is dangerously stronger than the guild claimed. Right on cue, the arrogant beast stomps forward, mocking their absolute powerlessness. Panicking, the MC screams for everyone to watch out for underground roots. But wait, the blue Pokemon fires its move too. The two wild abilities merge together instantly, trapping our entire squad inside a massive earthen dome. Smirking at his pet carbuncle, the boss happily says he is glad the little guy is safe. But Wild the Owl instantly ruins the touching moment with a freezing ice spell that does literally 0 damage. Breaking free from the trap, our hero grimly realizes that cheap sneak attacks are totally useless here. Spotting him, the angry boss demands to know where those two useless adventurers went. Turns out, since he couldn't summon Q, our guy used the device to warp them to safety. Activating his aura, Yuki declares he just has to smash this boss to end things. The named beast smirks, admitting humans are clever despite being fragile, but then his rage flares, growling that this kid is exceptionally good at getting under his skin. He quickly commands his pet to combine the labyrinth skill with his brutal piercing grudge attack. The monster aggressively chucks a massive spiky ball, forcing the hero into a desperate dodge. Smirking, the boss taunts that the kid's crab summon can't possibly block this kind of heat. The little Pokemon launches a relentless barrage of spiky projectiles, but our boy just keeps weaving. Gritting his teeth, the MC quickly does the math. Dodging like this is going to drain his stamina completely. So where do we go from here? Wild preps his owl magic from above, while our hero grips his sword, ready for war. Alright, you and I are jumping right back into the madness. The boss claims our boy can't block this attack. But Yuki, he says he's not blocking, he's going full offense. Boom, he summons Task, rocking a maid outfit. The Foxman steps up, punching a massive spiked ball into pure dust. Sweating a bit, he admits the maid dress really isn't his style, but hey, master's orders. Why a maid? Because undead maids never run out of stamina. Wild grabs a whole stack of those spiky balls ready for some payback. Without breaking a sweat, he yeets those massive balls right at the boss. A direct hit. The boss instantly drops to his knees. Panicking, the blue rabbit begs him to retreat. But Xeris is absolutely furious. He snaps at him, screaming he'll just wipe everyone out. The pet pushes back, warning that an attack like that would wreck the Lord's own body. Xeris literally doesn't care. Let the dungeon collapse, he says. Hearing those words, our hero immediately flashes back to his orphanage. History check: the first nation to ever find a dungeon basically ruled the world. But the first dungeon collapse happened there too. The result: that entire country was wiped off the map. That's exactly why adventurers and guilds exist today, to stop those disasters. Still, dungeon collapses constantly threaten the world, totally haunting our MC's past. Back to the fight. The rabbit tries desperately to warn his boss. Spamming power like this is basically a death sentence. He could totally lose control. Annoyed, Xeris glares, asking if his own pet is mocking him. He asks what this little guy is thinking. Lose to a mere human? Absolutely not. Brutally squeezing Carbuncle, the boss admits the little guy's ability was handy, but he's totally useless now. Without blinking, he says he just needs the ability. He triggers Invasive Root, cruelly absorbing his own partner. Watch closely, he fully absorbs that blue rabbit. Right after, he immediately launches a massive boulder at Yuki. Wild instantly jumps in to block it, but the boss uses Piercing Grudge, hitting him from inside the stone. Luckily, the Foxman is undead, so he doesn't feel any pain. Sword ready, Yuki says it's time to counterattack and he needs backup, but Task yells back they have to drop this guy fast because the dungeon is getting insanely unstable. Seeing our boy charge, the giant monster stomps his massive foot, literally cracking the earth wide open. Tumbling through the air, Yuki frantically shouts for his friend to help. Wild instantly shifts into owl form, grabbing him right out of the sky. At this point, the boss completely loses his mind. He just can't land a single hit. Getting desperate, he completely shatters the upper floors to crush Yuki. Using his roots, he actually pulls the ceiling together into one massive giant weapon. Fuming with rage, he launches his ultimate attack. Suddenly, the guard bursts in, screaming for Yuki. Yuki dashes over, tagging him just in time. The monster violently smashes his crazy new weapon into the ground with absolutely everything he has. You saw that right, the kid just vanishes. The boss absolutely freaks out, but Yuki is already teleported somewhere else entirely. Huge sigh of relief, Duga mentions the adventurers reported a boss suddenly appearing on a super early floor. But Yuki says that's the least of their problems. They are facing a full-blown dungeon collapse crisis. The guard wants to handle it ASAP, but admits it is going to take a really long time. He explains, collapses are basically still being researched. All they really know, they usually trigger in dungeons that are actively getting cleared out right now. When a collapse hits the dungeon, and everything around it gets completely sucked into the earth. A disaster with 0 survivors. Yuki says he saw that chaotic place himself, and it definitely wasn't a bluff or a joke. Duga agrees, but all the S-rank adventurers are tied up right now. Calling them back will take too long. Realizing this, Yuki says they just have to clear it using whoever is available right now. But the guard sighs. Most adventurers today only care about cash. Good guys like Yuki are incredibly rare. Sweating, Yuki asks what the actual plan is. The guy says they need to warn the guild first and issue emergency evacuations for the entire area. Looking down seriously, our boy volunteers to hit the guild. The guard says he will head to the captain's active dungeon. He warns Yuki not to play the hero here. If things go bad this time, they really might not be able to stop it. With a heavy gaze, Yuki just nods. Later on, Yuki starts plotting his next move. Trying to solo this entire mess by himself would be insanely reckless. But here's the thing, humans only know the absolute basics of collapses, yet Xeris and Task both actually know the real cause. So he makes a wild choice. He is going straight to the Demon King for answers about collapses. He uses his skill to ask about dungeons. Stick with me, what happens next is wild. Alright, grab a seat because you and I are diving into some serious dungeon lore. The vampire explains everything, since letting the kid wander into a collapsing dungeon is just asking for trouble. The collapse trigger, always the same. It happens the moment a boss completely loses control of their dungeon. See, dungeons aren't natural spaces at all. Keeping one alive takes an absolutely insane amount of raw mana to maintain the illusion. To protect their monsters, bosses literally burn through their own life force. That's why they use every dirty trick imaginable just to keep things running. But Liber explains that some fail. They stretch the dungeon space way past their breaking point. Or worse, a boss dumps in way too much mana and creates a zone that simply cannot survive. The balance just snaps. Curious, our hero asks if the aftershocks leak into the human world, just like that massive disaster from before. The vampire nods. Yep, that is exactly why they carefully tune dungeons to the perfect balance if they want to survive. Pointing at Liber's situation, he explains Xeris rebuilt his zone way too many times recently, causing an unbelievable amount of structural strain. Straight up, the demon warns that the monster will self-destruct anyway. His advice: the kid needs to stay put. But our hero completely disagrees, arguing innocent people will get dragged into this mess. Liber claps back. It is the exact same for monsters. A ton of them will be in absolute danger if they lose Yuki now. Bam! The vampire flings the kid away with pure magic. Walking closer, he calmly states he isn't going to kill him. He is going to break him completely. You and I need to watch this closely. Yuki checks the rising mana pressure while the system spits out endless danger alerts. Already sweating, the hero realizes even Mockingus's brutal wind test wasn't half as terrifying as that one casual hand wave. The demon knows this brat won't just give up. So his new plan: crush his spirit completely into the dirt. A lethal wind spell shoots right at him, but Yuki barely manages to dodge it. Scrambling away, the hero suddenly realizes the absolute nightmare of fighting someone who already knows every single trick he has. Looking terrifying, the vampire stomps hard, literally shattering the ground. Shaking, our protagonist wonders what kind of insane stats a demon king even possesses. Yuki asks if destroying his own dungeon is really okay, but Liber clearly could not care less. He claims it is worth it for the kid's sake. Facing that kind of monstrous power, the hero realizes a direct fight is pure suicide. Preparing for round 2, the demon stares into the kid's eyes. He can easily tell Yuki has finally made his mind up about something. Panicking, the hero jumps back to gain some distance. But nope, the vampire teleports right in his face, calling it totally pointless. With just one devastating hit, he floors his own pupil. Feeling pathetic, the protagonist admits he really thought he got stronger. Surprisingly, the vampire agrees. The kid is strong enough now to bet his entire survival on. But still, he absolutely refuses to believe the kid can stop a dungeon collapse solo. I know you feel his frustration. He simply will not let the boy jump into an unwinnable fight. Yuki staggers up. He absolutely refuses to be too late again, betting his actual life on this. Crouching low, he grips his sword, ready for a massive strike. Reading the room, the monster instantly realizes it is a bluff. The brat is definitely prepping to fire off some hidden pre-charged spell. Casually summoning a massive magic circle, the master boasts he can block any spell effortlessly. But surprise, the hero calls Elvina and she casts an instant vanish spell. Just like that, the tricky duo completely disappears using teleportation magic. Without breaking a sweat, the vampire smirks, claiming the kid cannot escape a demon king. Somewhere completely different, the protagonist finally thanks the maid. The zombie casually mentions she figured out he needed a different spell during their sneaky telepathic chat. Trying to keep the peace, she strongly suggests he apologize to the demon king later. Quickly changing the topic, our hero asks where they landed. Elvina guesses they are exactly one floor above Liber. Hearing that, the hero declares they need an exit fast. But then a loud, terrifying announcement suddenly blasts across every single floor. It is the Demon King ordering every monster to capture the adventurer Yuki. By any means necessary, just bring him back alive. Sweating, the maid asks what on earth her young master actually did. Yuki just sighs, admitting he knew this exact moment would happen. Fully determined, he vows to fight his way through this dungeon. And minutes later, a massive, ugly monster shows up for a brawl. After trading a few brutal blows, our hero takes it down. But honestly, he is completely exhausted after just one single enemy. He quickly asks if the zombie's mana recovered yet. Nope. She definitely doesn't have enough juice to use that jump spell again. Checking his system map, the boy realizes they desperately need to locate a safe zone on this chaotic floor immediately. Then he asks Elvina if disobeying Liber is actually okay. She casually explains normal monsters cannot resist her commands once a contract forms. Hearing that, Yuki asks if a Demon King class monster like Task can resist. She says they are exceptions. Plus, she never planned to take him back anyway, and that is where we leave it for today. Let's dive in. Surprised, our hero asks why, and she admits he can stop this dungeon collapse. She heard he cleared a whole dungeon just to revive it. Grabbing his face, Elvina says Lord Liber is stressing way too much. Yuki admits he never expected that level of trust. Boom, the butler suddenly drops in, completely killing their vibe. The old man actually praises the brat for switching straight into full combat mode instantly. Charging right at him, the old man warns that reaction speed alone won't stop a total dungeon collapse. Vint warns him that just finding a lucky opening won't cut it anymore. Landing a massive strike, he disarms the kid entirely, demanding nothing short of an absolutely overwhelming victory. The butler unleashes relentless attacks and our protagonist barely blocks. But the old man tosses him back like absolute trash. He demands a flawless victory, 0 mistakes allowed. Desperate, the hero activates his blood skill, but his opponent mirrors it perfectly. The kid barely escapes with a graze. Meanwhile, Elvina flexes her insane super strength, lifting a massive boulder and hurling it right at the butler. One clean swing. The old man smashes the rock and sends our hero flying. Hitting the dirt, the protagonist realizes his defense completely failed. Wearing a dead serious expression, the man approaches. He claims the kid's strength is still painfully incomplete. Bruised Yuki questions his options with Elvina hurt. Sword ready, the butler prepares a brutal finishing strike. Watch this. With one slick move, he fakes out the kid, driving his sword straight into rock. Vint reveals Liber's strict orders bring the boy back alive, so he's handing out mandatory training right now just to keep the kid from accidentally getting himself killed. Giving off major sad puppy energy, our hero finally realizes these two actually came to help him out, not capture him. The butler explains Lord Liber let them pick their own methods. That means the vampire completely trusts their wild judgment. Turns out some monsters out there still absolutely refuse to trust humans. The protagonist's new friends have been keeping those rogue monsters in check. Standing tall, Vint declares the kid desperately needs to level up fast for the dungeon's sake. Fired up, the boy asks if Elvina can stand. She tells the brat to chill until her arm heals. Yuki confidently claims he's totally ready for this brutal death-defying training arc. The butler praises that insane mindset, but he warns that if the kid fails this hellish training, he's getting dragged straight back to Lord Liber. The hero asks what's next. With a terrifying glare, the butler casually drops the bomb he needs to level up. He has to grind until he can spam multiple summons at once. Totally confused, our protagonist points out he can only level up by clearing other dungeons. The butler agrees regarding raw stats, but skills work differently. Real battle experience can massively power them up. Vint explains the ultimate mission here, strictly raising the level of the hero's summoning skill. To pull that off, the kid must push his skills to the absolute limit. Then, the old man casually reveals he brought a whole squad of dungeon monsters to help him train. You feel that too, right? These monsters are actually super grateful he brought them back to life. Oh, and May is there too, helping the monsters with their physical and mental recovery. The old man states this is the absolute maximum mana they can burn on the kid's crazy training session. Next, he summons Machina. She makes it crystal clear she despises his orders and is strictly helping the boy. She even offers to lend him one of her ultra-rare reference books. After that, the hero gets instantly teleported to a familiar pocket training space. Vint explains the cheat code, 3 hours out here equals 3 full days inside the space. The butler stresses they are completely out of time. Smiling like a maniac, the protagonist admits that's exactly what he needed. Gripping his sword, he vows to go absolutely all out. He charges straight into a chaotic head-on brawl. Mid-fight, he remembers how he used to utterly despise all monsters after that horrific tragedy at his old orphanage, but he fully admits everything shifted after forging that contract with Liber and getting saved by Elvina's crew. Boom! Out of nowhere, the hero lands a devastating punch on a monster. He keeps pushing, reflecting on his journey from a trash-tier F rank to the guy trying to stop a total dungeon wipeout. Mid-battle, the protagonist actually summons his little bat, charges up its skill, and blasts it right at the incoming monsters. Sometime later, the tired head maid warns a battered monster she might not be able to fully heal him this round. Watching closely, Vint notes the kid completely mastered that skill and leveled up his swordsmanship too. Deciding playtime is over, the old man announces he's taking this fight seriously now. Without warning, the butler lunges at the kid. In that split second, our hero silently vows to protect absolutely everyone, humans and monsters alike. Radiating pure confidence, he declares he must get stronger. Stopping here isn't an option. Fast forward a bit, and our protagonist finally returns to Lord Liber. That's where we leave it. The Demon King asks if he got scared of death, saying cowardice really doesn't suit him. Alright, stick with me here. Yuki drops in to strike a brand new deal, admitting his old plan was using monsters just to save humanity. But now our swordsman wants to protect everyone, humans and monsters alike. He steps right up, demanding they rewrite this contract on totally equal terms. He absolutely refuses to throw his life away, vowing to keep both sides completely safe. Hearing that, the guy just bursts into mocking laughter. He furiously calls the kid a spoiled brat chasing his own selfish desires, same as always. Burning with pure rage, the Demon King warns our main character, keep this up and you will lose absolutely everything. But the boy just shuts that down. Not going to happen. Now, pay attention. Zero fear, Yuki walks straight up to the Demon King asking to be used. He will use him back to clear the dungeon collapse. And this time around, he plans on pushing this vampire to his absolute max limit. Reaching his hand out, he declares they will both protect exactly what they want to protect. That is their brand new deal. Hearing that wild confidence, Liber realizes this is exactly how he used to threaten humans. Standing up, he laughs at the pure disrespect. He admits it is pretty interesting realizing the kid has finally grown up. Shocking everyone, the Demon King actually shakes the hero's hand, sealing it. Smiling, he warns the kid better have a flawless plan because failing is not an option. Confident Yuki just smirks. He has a solid plan and trust me, you and I will see him use a Demon King properly.